This is I'm gonna discuss the 2008 Hall of Fame inductees: Brian Urlacher, Randy Moss, Ray Lewis, Brian Dawkins, those and Terrell Owens. Those are some of the guys that I recognize that played in the era that I was watching football. And I'm just gonna talk about a little bit about these guys. Of course, Brian Urlacher. I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so I know Brian Urlacher very well. I've seen his whole career unfold. Brian Urlacher, from the moment he was drafted by the Bears, he made an immediate impact. I believe he was Defensive Rookie of the Year that year for the NFL for all rookies on the defensive side of the ball. Brian Urlacher made big plays. To me, he's probably, well, the Bears have a history of great linebackers and linebackers that are in the Hall of Fame. Dick Butkus, and especially middle linebackers, Dick Butkus and Mike Singletary. They're both in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So it's kind of hard to say is Brian Urlacher the best linebacker in Bears history. I would probably have to give it to Mike Singletary because he did win a Super Bowl. He was on one of the greatest defenses of all times. In my opinion, the best defense that ever played in the NFL, even better than the Steel Curtain and the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Purple People Eaters, the Vikings. A lot of people don't know about them. They played, the Purple People Eaters were mostly like in the 70s, I believe, 60s, 70s, and they went to like 3 Super Bowls, but they never won it. They never won a Super Bowl. But anyway. So I would say Brian Urlacher is probably third. Dick Butkus is just a legend. You're not gonna put a middle linebacker over Dick Butkus. I know a lot of people say Ray Lewis is the best linebacker of all times, middle linebacker, but I'm gonna say Dick Butkus. Dick Butkus was the greatest linebacker. I mean, you know, everybody got their own opinions, but yeah, Brian Urlacher. I mean, he did lead the Bears to the Super Bowl against the Colts. We didn't win the Super Bowl that year. Tommy Harris did get hurt, which was our best interior defensive lineman. We just got to the quarterback so fast because he could not be blocked one-on-one, and he collapsed the pocket because we had Anawale Agulia on one side, we had Anderson on the other side, and when Tommy Harris got out the lineup, you could see the big difference. The defense was still good, but it was really good when Tommy Harris was playing. Tommy Harris just had some bad luck and had some bad knees. But yeah, congratulations to Brian Urlacher. The Bears got the most Hall of Famers in the Hall of Fame. You can go look it up. The Bears got the most Hall of Famers in the Hall of Fame. And I want to talk about Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis is one of the great leaders of the NFL. He led the Baltimore Ravens to 2 Super Bowls. Ray Lewis was also, I think he was 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. And Ray Lewis was a force, man. Ray Lewis, I remember him playing for Miami Hurricanes. Yeah, everybody know the Miami Hurricanes back in the day were a monster in the 80s and the 90s. In the 80s and 90s, Miami Hurricanes was the shit. I don't care what nobody say. They may not be what they used to be now, but in the 80s, in the early 90s, in the mid 90s, Miami Hurricane was something to deal with, because I know, because I was a Florida State fan, and Miami and Florida State went at it year after year after year. So and they have some great players that come through there. And yeah, Ray Lewis is one of the great leaders of all times, man. Congratulations to Ray Lewis. To Ray Lewis. Brian Dawkins, one of the best hard hitting, intimidating safeties of his era. He was in the same era with a lot of other great strong safeties. No. I think Brian Dawkins was a free safety. I believe he was a free safety. Y'all can correct me on that. But I believe Brian Dawkins was a free safety. Brian Dawkins played for the Philadelphia Eagles. He did play in the Super Bowl when they played against the Patriots. They came up short. I believe that was a field goal. One of the field goal games one of the many field goal Super Bowl winning games that the Patriots won off the foot of Adam Vinatieri, which probably I ain't gonna say probably, he's the greatest clutch field goal kicker of all times. I believe he won 3 Super Bowls, and he did start off their run when he kicked them into the Super Bowl. Their first Super Bowl against the Raiders in the snow. That's when the tuck rule came out, when Charles Woodson clearly made Brady fumble. But yeah, congratulations to Dawkins. And T.O. finally made it, man. T.O. To me, T.O. should have got in the first ballot. It was no reason to hold this man out. The man had astronomical receiver numbers. He was one of the best receivers of his era. It was him and Moss in 1A and 1B, however you want to say it. But T.O. always played. T.O. was an all-around receiver. He blocked. He ran across the middle. He ran every route in the route tree. He can get deep on you. He was physical, 6'3". He wasn't track fast, but he was football fast. He had football speed. So when he got the ball in his hands, he very seldom in the open field, very seldom got caught from behind, or it was hard to get him down on the ground because he was so physical. And Randy Moss. I remember Randy Moss at Marshall University. I know people remember Randy Moss. I believe he had 20-something touchdowns that year. He had a really good year that year. Charles Woodson ended up winning the Heisman. I know it was Charles Woodson was a finalist. It was Randy Moss, and it was Peyton Manning. Those were the three main finalists that I remember for the Heisman, and Charles Woodson won. But I believe Charles Woodson did deserve it. He did really deserve it, because he did play offense and he played defense. And Charles Woodson really won it when he played Ohio State. When Michigan played Ohio State, and he was guarding David Boston. David Boston was one of the best receivers. David Boston was rated the #1 receiver that year in college, and he shut David Boston down. They had a fight on the field. But yeah, Charles Woodson did deserve it. Charles Woodson, I believe, he was the first defensive back to ever win the Heisman, and it has not been a defensive back since he won the Heisman, and it hasn't. I'm trying to figure out how many, because the Heisman usually goes to the offensive side of the ball. So I'm trying to figure out, he may be a handful or very few Heisman winners that was a defensive player. I didn't look it up. I'm doing this on the fly, so I didn't really look it up. But I believe Charles Woodson is probably one of the handful of guys that ever won the Heisman on the defensive side of the ball, because the Heisman is usually given to running backs and quarterbacks. Running backs and quarterbacks usually dominate the Heisman Trophy, especially quarterbacks. So congratulations to Randy Moss, man. Randy Moss was a terror. I remember him coming in the NFL. Everybody passed up on him. He did have some troubles off the field, some major, troubles off the field with domestic violence, and he could have went to Notre Dame. He could have went to Florida State. If he would have went to any one of those schools and put up the numbers he put up at Marshall, he probably would have won the Heisman that year. But Moss came in the NFL and just terrorized. I remember I remember looking at the draft, and the Bears passed up on him. Now the Bears did take, I think that year the Bears took, if I'm not mistaken, they took either Rashad Shalom or Curtis Enis out of Penn State. One of those guys they took. I know Rashad Shalom came out of Colorado, I believe, and Curtis Enis came out of Penn State. They took one of those running backs, which really wasn't a bad pick, but how can you pass up on a talent like Randy Moss? 11 teams passed up on him. The Dallas Cowboys said that they was going to take Randy Moss. Randy Moss even revealed in his that documentary, that 30 for 30, that Dallas said that they was going to take him, but they did not take him. They did not take him, and he torched them on when he played Dallas. I remember him he torched everybody that year. He had 17 touchdowns that year for a rookie, which is astronomical. He was going deep on everybody, catching the ball on 2 people. Everybody talking about, the wide receivers today, man. None of those guys was Randy Moss. None of these guys today can touch Randy Moss. I know, people say that Odell Beckham, guys of that nature, Julio Jones. But the thing about Randy Moss had size, and he had track speed. It wasn't nobody. That man had track speed. No one can keep up with Randy Moss. It was just throw it deep. Randall Cunningham, just throw it deep. Dante Culpepper, just throw it deep. That's all they had to do was just throw it up to him. I could have played quarterback and just threw it up to him. He would have got it. But yeah, congratulations to those guys that made the Hall of Fame, man. It's a huge honor for those guys. I'm really happy that T.O. finally got in, man. That man deserved to get in. Now he can, you know, he can be at peace, you know what I'm saying, and you know, really appreciate the fruits of his labor. But yeah, man, I'm out. Let me know what you think about the guys that got inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'm out.